Okay, geometry students, in this video we will be studying one particular type of quadrilateral called a parallelogram. We will be learning 4 theorems about parallelograms today. And hold on a second, for some reason my mimeopad's not working. There we go. Okay. Your heading for today is properties of parallelograms. If you'll copy that down, please. Properties of parallelograms, and lesson number 6.3. Be sure and include today's date, okay? Properties of parallelograms. Please write that down if you would, please. Write down the lesson number 6.3 and write down today's date. Alright, let's continue on. Now, first, before we get started, we need a definition of a parallelogram, okay? So here it is. Here's the definition. A parallelogram is, please write this down, you're responsible for this information right here. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral in which opposite sides are parallel. Pretty simple, okay? A quadrilateral in which opposite sides are parallel. So we know that we'll have a four-sided figure because a quadrilateral is a four-sided figure and the opposite sides are parallel. If you need an example of a parallelogram, here it is. Copy this down if you would like to, okay? There's a parallelogram. Because this side here and this side here are parallel, so I put the arrows on it. I'll put 2 arrows on this side, 2 arrows on this side over here. So this side and this side are parallel, and this side and this side are parallel. That is a parallelogram, okay? So pretty simple. Let's continue on. Now let's also look at the proper symbolism, okay? Remember, guys, don't write this down, please, just watch. Remember, if I had a triangle like this, I could symbolize it like this. I could put triangle A, BC, or triangle ACB or BAC, or however you want to put it. Well, there's also some symbolism for parallelograms. Please make note of this, okay? In your notes, let's go ahead and draw a parallelogram if you've not done that already. And let's call this, let's see, parallelogram ABCD. Okay, now here's the symbolism you can use for this. You put a little parallelogram like this. Okay, take notice on this, guys. You put a little parallelogram, and you could call it parallelogram ABCD. Or you could call it parallelogram BCDA, or CDAB, or DABC. Just whatever letter you start with. Most books are going to go to the right. That's not really too big of a deal, to be honest with you. What is important is you don't skip any letters. So it's going to be called, you wouldn't put parallelogram A, C, B, D. Because if you said AC, then you skipped B. Okay? So hopefully you understand that. So that's how you symbolize parallelograms. So you could call this, put a little parallelogram symbol, then ABCD or BCDA or CDA. I would not take off if you put ADCB or DCBA or DA. I'm not really worried about that. I'm not hung up on that, but make sure you don't skip letters. Okay, I will take off points for that on a test or a quiz. All right, let me get a drink here and we'll continue on. Okay, now, without waiting anymore, let's go ahead and jump into these 4 theorems, okay? It's not going to be a very long lesson today. It'll be pretty short. And so, here we go. Here's your first theorem. Please copy this down. You're responsible for this theorem. Please copy this down. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent, okay? If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. Copy that down, please. I'll wait just a second. These are so easy, guys. These 4 theorems we're going to look at today all deal with parallelograms, okay? All 4 of them. So it's pretty simple, okay? If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent, okay? Give you a second to copy this down. We're going to move on, okay? If parallelogram, and we'll call this parallelogram Ohio just for Nate for work. So here's my parallelogram over here. All right, just teasing you, Nate. O-H-I-O. Alright, there we go. You can't do that, can we? There's two O's. Oh well. So much for my trying to be funny. We'll call this a J. Alright, I don't know why. There we go. Now look, guys. If I have a parallelogram, look what I know. Please write this down, guys. Then I know that OH is congruent to IJ, and HI is congruent to OJ. In other words, this side here is congruent to this side here. This side here is congruent to this side here. Please, please, students, don't ever forget that. You need to know that all year. If you have a parallelogram, the opposite sides are parallel. That's true, we know that. But they're also congruent. They will be congruent. Okay? All right, I'm going to move on. If I'm going too fast, just pause the video, okay? Okay, take some really good notes on this. Now let's talk about the proof of this theorem. It's real simple. You need to know it. And I'm not going to do it for you, but that's okay. You're going to do this proof in your homework tonight. So if you get stuck on it, watch the video. All four of these proofs are really simple, and I want you to know all four of them. Mr. Eric, that's unreasonable. Guys, they're so, when you see how to do them, they're like 3 or 4 step proofs, okay? They're really, really simple. And so I want you to know all four of them. Well, actually, probably the last one I won't make you know. It's about 8 steps. So, but the first 3 theorems here, I want you to know them. So I want you to know how to prove this, and you'll find how to do it in your homework tonight. Okay, so when you do your homework tonight, you'll have to prove it. If you get stuck on it, watch the help video, okay? All right, let's continue on. Okay, Theorem 6.4. Please copy this in your notes. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, what do we know? Look at this. We know the opposite angles are congruent. Okay? Opposite angles are congruent. Okay? Alright. If a quadrilateral, please copy this down, is a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. So, there's a parallelogram over here. Just to be nice to Nate, we'll call this Wolf, short for Wolverine. Okay, so there we go. Trying to be nice here. Alright, now look. Over here, put this. Put if, copy this down, please. If I have parallelogram, WOLV, then I have, now watch this, please, angle O is congruent to angle V. They're opposite angles. Angle W is congruent to angle L. Okay, so I'm going to put 1 mark here, 1 mark here, 2 marks here, and 2 marks here. Okay, let this sink in. I'm going to pause for a minute, okay? If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. Okay? Its opposite angles are congruent. You need to know that. So now we know 3 things about parallelograms. We do? Yeah. We know the opposite sides are parallel. We know the opposite sides are congruent. And now we know the opposite angles are congruent. So now we know 3 things about parallelograms. Okay? All right, continuing on. Do you need to know the proof? Yes, you do. And it's okay. You will prove this in your what? Homework. It is amazingly easy. It is so easy, okay? And so if you get stuck on this, I hope some of you will figure this one out on your own. And this one too. But if you don't, watch the homework help video and you'll know how to prove them, okay? Okay, let's continue on to our 3rd theorem. I told you the video would not be very long today. It's actually pretty short, okay? All right, here we go. Copy down Theorem 6.5. Okay, Theorem 6.5. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are not congruent. They're supplementary. Consecutive angles means side-by-side angles. Okay? So copy this down. I'll wait a minute here. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, got it? If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay? While you're copying that down, I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture of this. Copy this in your notes if you would, please. Here's my parallelogram over here. We're going to call this parallelogram, whatever, just ABCD. Okay, and let's come over here and put if, okay? So, if I have parallelogram ABCD, then I've got a lot of stuff to write down. Please take some really good notes, guys. All of these angles here are supplementary. That means they add up to 180. Angle A and B. Angles A and B. They're side by side. How about angles B and C? Definitely. They're side by side. How about angles C and D? Definitely they're side by side. How about angles D and A? Definitely they're side by side. Okay, guys, in a parallelogram, any angle that is beside each other, those two angles will always be supplementary. They will add up to 180 degrees. Okay? All right, I'm going to pause a second while you get caught up. We have one more theorem to look at and we'll be done for the day. Not a long video, pretty simple stuff, guys. Okay? Okay, let's continue on. Now, the proof, yes, you need to know it, but again, you prove this in your homework. So, if you get stuck on it, use the homework help video. I'm hoping some of you will get all three of these on your own. That would be great. Okay? If any of you do, email me and let me know. Seriously, I would love to know if any of you got all three of these proofs on your own. If you do, we'll recognize you on class day. Just kidding, of course, but let me know if you do, okay? All right, let's continue on. Now, we have one more theorem to look at, and it's a pretty simple theorem, like all the other ones have been. Copy this down, please. Theorem 6.6. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. Notice we did not say the diagonals are what? Because that's not necessarily true, okay? In fact, usually it's not true, all right? The diagonals bisect each other. And I'll explain what that means here in just a second. Go ahead and copy this down, please. I'll pause a minute here. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. Okay, here we go. Copy this down, please. We'll call this parallelogram. Let's see. PQRS. Okay. And I'm going to draw some diagonals. So draw some diagonals in your notes. If I have parallelogram PQRS, then, now please listen carefully, students. I'm not bragging, but if you'll listen to me, I can explain this really well, okay? This is the midpoint of both lines because the two diagonals bisect each other. In other words, these two diagonals cut each other in half. So we're going to put a point here in your notes. Go ahead and put a point here. And we're going to call this point A. Okay, and I should have made this bigger. I apologize, guys. It's my fault, but it's too late now. Maybe I can make it a little bigger. Okay, now look, students. PA, the segment right here, is congruent to AR, the segment here. So, mark, mark. Come over here. PA is congruent to AR. And then look, this segment here, SA, is congruent to AQ. So 2 marks here. 2 marks here. So SA is congruent to AQ. Got it? And that's it. So if we have a parallelogram, the diagonals will bisect each other. Okay? I'm going to pause a minute while you finalize your notes. I want to give you one more thought, and then we're pretty much finished. Okay, let's quickly talk about the proof of this theorem. It's a pretty long proof, so I'm going to not make you know this. I'm going to go ahead and cut you those slacks so you do not need to know. But if you're curious, and some of you would probably never admit in front of your classmates that you actually want to know, which is fine. But if you get free time and you want to look at it, the proof is on page 281. Underneath Theorem 6.6, you'll see a proof of this. Okay, it's 8 steps. So I'm not going to make you know this one, but if you're curious on how to do it, you can look in the book, okay? Now, listen, students, I'm not going to waste time in giving you math examples that practice using these theorems. If my voice was 100%, I would still not waste time in giving you math examples. They are, for the most part, pretty simple principles. What you need more than examples is to practice, okay? When I taught you in 8th grade math for you juniors, some days I would teach for only 20 minutes. Some days I'd teach for 40. I have no problem giving you extra time in class for homework. In fact, I love it when you can finish your homework in class, okay? It's not a bad thing. It doesn't happen very often. It's not a bad thing. Okay, so very quickly, you can take notes on this, or you can just watch. But I'm going to list out the 5 things we know about parallelograms. I'm going to sum it all up for you, okay? You can copy this down, or you can just look. Opposite sides are what? Parallel. Opposite sides are what? Congruent. Opposite angles are what? Congruent. Consecutive angles are what? Supplementary. And the diagonals do what to each other? They bisect each other. There you go. I just summed up the entire video in about 30 seconds, okay? This is what you need to know. Alright? Have a good day, guys. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.